Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to the Tisch WNET studio here in the heart of Lincoln Center. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome my friend, Cornell Belcher. He is former Obama Pollster. You're so much more than that. Also the author of A Black Man in the White House. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm honored to be on your show. I really am. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you. We got to see each other a few weeks back.
Yes, we did.
We were paired together on another network. And Joy Reid. By the way, Joy's been here with us many times from MSNBC.
She's good people.
She does a great show. And by the way, we did a selfie. Can I do this? This is the worst selfie of all time. Our producers don't know. This is, guys, the worst selfie of all time. Can we take a look at this?
It's pretty good. Two good-looking gray-haired guys there.
Can you see this? The worst. Hey, why's your head bigger than mine? Why is more of your face? You got more FaceTime than me.
I have more hair.
It was interesting to get to see you and hear you because I've always watched you on the air before. I'm curious. You got into the business of politics and commentary when and why?
I got into business of politics a lot long before I got into commentary. I grew up in the South and fascinated with political behavior, right? Where I'd play back then when kids played baseball. You remember that?
No, it's baseball.
Video baseball or soccer, but yes. I won't get all started on that. And we'd play baseball together. It's a really integrated, mixed neighborhood. We'd all get along together, but you go back to your friend's house and there'd be a Confederate flag, right? And I was like, okay, I don't understand what's going on. So I've always been fascinated by political behavior, sort of how people behave politically, and reading Du Bois's works early on. W.E.B. Du Bois's work early on. I always wanted to sort of get involved in the social sciences as a vehicle to bring about change and to help uplift people. The commentary stuff came later with some success. I was actually Howard Dean's pollster at the DNC before I was part of the Obama team. And there was a need for a voice, really sort of hard defending President Obama, right? And there were a lot of commentators on television, but for me, none of them were really sort of Obama people and sort of defending the president in the way I thought he should be defended. So I started doing it more and more, and then CNN offered me a contract. So I did a couple of years of contract with CNN. I actually thought I was going to step back from television commentary more just to focus on the business because I was hoping a lot of these Hillary people would come in and replace some of us Obama people. But that unfortunately did not happen.
Why did she fail as a candidate?
And I think you nailed it. I think she failed more than he succeeded, right? I think
he being the president today.
Right. I think this wasn't about what Donald Trump did. It was about what she failed to do. I mean, Donald Trump is someone who is president with less than a plurality, right? He has 46% of the vote. He has a lesser percentage of the vote than Mitt Romney, right? So it wasn't like he expanded the electorate or brought in new voters to the Republican tent, right? In fact, he got less of a percentage of the vote than Mitt Romney did overall. She failed to hold tightly the Obama coalition. And let's understand what that was. That was back-to-back majorities, right? For the first time in a long, long time, Democrats won back-to-back majorities here in this country. And one of the first conversations we had with then Senator Obama was this idea of building a movement, and we had to expand the electorate, had to change the face of the electorate. We had to bring in new voters to this process and make the electorate look a lot more like the changing face of the electorate, the diverse population of Americans. 11% of our electorate in 2008 were new voters. They were disproportionately young voters, right? Bringing these new people into the process. She didn't hold tightly to that, particularly those younger, more diverse voters.
She did not connect.
She did not connect, and to a certain extent, I think it's kind of. But there was also an argument, Steve, that she didn't have to hold as tightly to the Obama coalition because certainly she would do better among white women, right? Well, as you know, she didn't. She didn't do better among white women.
Respectfully, Donald Trump did get a significant percentage of Obama voters in certain places under certain circumstances. And how do you explain that?
Well, yes, but were there Obama-Trump voters? Yes, there were some Obama-Trump voters. But there were also Romney-Hillary voters. To a certain extent, no. This is why I say this is... I push back on that because if you look at his percentage in these states, it wasn't like he blew through Mitt Romney's percentage, but it was enough. Did he win more blue-collar, older white voters? Yes. But at the same time, he didn't do as well with younger college-educated white voters as Mitt Romney did. So in the aggregate, it was kind of a wash.
Let me ask you this. Today, past the election, we're in the spring, moving on into 2017. What's your greatest concern about President Trump as a leader of this country today?
And this is what I talk about in the book. I think we're at a crisis, a real pivotal moment in this country, right? You know, you know political history well. George Wallace couldn't have run the Republican nomination, right? Pat Buchanan actually couldn't win the Republican nomination. But because of what I would argue the election of Barack Obama and sort of this cataclysmic moment where people did feel as though they're losing their country, you can't elect a Donald Trump, right? Someone who—
In reaction to Obama's presidency?
In reaction to the changes that are happening in the country, right? In my book, I talk about this. You know, this is for the first time in our history where, President Obama didn't make some great breakthrough in racial voting patterns. He got the same 43% of the white vote that John Kerry got in losing, but he won a majority because of the changing demographics in this country, and he realized that for the first time, and in 2012, you can just get 39% of the white vote and win a back-to-back majority. So the changing demographics of this country are really becoming front and center. The wolf's at the door, and you see this cry of people saying, "We're losing our country. We have to take back our country." Right?
Do you understand that?
I do understand that because we are a changing country, right? And, in the next decade and a half, we're going to be close to a plurality minority, right? And some of the battleground states, even before that, like I think this stat the other day I saw, a majority of the elementary school age kids in Georgia right now are children of color, right? So demographic changes are real, and what I would argue, Steve, is we've been kicking this can down the road for a long time, right? Du Bois said the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. We can't kick this can down the road anymore because as we grow more racially diverse, you see racial aversion on the rise. And we're not going to become whiter. So we have to solve for this. We have to figure out how become the big we.
When you say solve it.
We have to solve for historical original sin of this country.
So you're talking about slavery.
It goes back as far as slavery, but I would argue it goes right. I mean, it goes back to the first African slaves, the Africans who landed foot in Virginia to support the expanding tobacco trade. Right. This ideal of separation and race and slavery, it is our original sin that still haunts us. But we are a democracy right now, unique in that we are really going to change over the next, couple of decades to a majority-minority country. And with the history that we've had racially in this country, it's a ticking time bomb, right? So we have to get better at this.
Okay, but Trump is the president. What could he do to actually help us move in that direction?
Well, I don't think he can do it because understand he came into power as a reaction to that.
That was then.
But what I would argue is that we do have to have a different racial conversation. Steve, when and I think progressives have a blind spot on this, Steve, when Donald Trump says in front of his rallies when he was running for president, says, "I'm gonna give you back your country," he's having a conversation about race, right? He's having a one-sided conversation.
Is it a coded conversation?
No, it's not even coded. If you're saying I'm gonna give you back your country, it's not even coded. And Democrats' response to that has been, "I'm gonna give you a raise in the minimum wage." So it's like they're playing chess.
What should they say?
They're playing checkers. We should, in fact, it's politics 101. He or she who defines the debate wins the debate. We have to stop ceding the debate on racial issues to the Republicans. We have to engage and have a real conversation about, well, no, we lose the future if, in fact, we don't all come together. And understand that yes, that blue-collar older worker in rural and exurban America,
in Pennsylvania, in Detroit, in Ohio. Do Democrats actually speak effectively to them? They haven't.
It's nothing wrong with. We should understand that, quite frankly, they are anxious about what's happening in this country, and it's perfectly okay.
And it doesn't make them bad. It doesn't make them racist either.
Right. It makes
them scared.
It doesn't make them bad people, and we know terrible things happen when people are scared, right?
That's right.
Irrational things happen when people are scared. So we've got to speak to that fear, right? As opposed to feeding that fear. And I would argue...
Or calling them names.
Or calling them names. I would argue that if we can speak more effectively to that fear about these changes that happen in America, then all these economic considerations that minimum wage, college affordability, that Democrats keep saying should win these voters over, I think we could win those voters over if we can, in fact, speak to their cultural and their racial unease that are happening in this country. But it's not an easy conversation.
Trump scare you?
Trump scares the daylights out of me because he's so... And again, I'm not even playing partisanship. I mean, I have Republican friends.
Forget about politics right now.
He scares the daylights out of me because he's not someone who's studied or ready for the job. Look, I may disagree with Mitt Romney, but I would never argue that Mitt Romney hadn't done the work to be president, and Mitt Romney was unprepared to be president. That Mitt Romney didn't make the sacrifices and show the sort of commitment to people and the public that it took to be president. I can't say that about this guy. He doesn't know the history. He doesn't study. He doesn't seem to even care, right, about any of these things. And he's so sporadic. You know, we want to hope, but I'm a realist, and he is who he is, and he shows us who he is consistently. And I'm not one to pretend or hope that, okay, he's going to get better. No, we know exactly who he is, and he continues to show us over time and time again that he's bombastic, you know, and a self-absorbed personality.
Biggest message you want people to take away from this book, Cornell?
Is that look, as long as you see me as, and you see, you know, the other people of color as a problem or that you're losing your country, we're all going to lose, right? Because the country isn't going to get wider. We're only going to win the future and be able to compete against the rising, you know, Pacific Rim countries if, in fact, we are all in this together. We're all sort of better educating our kids, and we're united as one people. We got to get rid of the small we and concentrate on the big we the Americans.
Thank you, Cornell.
Thank you.
Promise next time we'll take a better selfie, okay? We'll do it here. The lighting's better.
The lighting's better here.
We look even younger.
I like that.
Cornell Belcher is the author of the book, A Black Man in the White House, Barack Obama and the Triggering of America's Racial Aversion Crisis. Good stuff.
I'm honored.
Same here. Right after this, right back.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Englewood Hospital and Medical Center, Caldwell University, TD Bank, Qualcare Inc., Kessler Foundation, the Northward Center, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.